Welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by HAYVN, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. I'm your host, Nancy Sheed, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Kelly Fitzpatrick. She is the president and founder of Blue Park Restaurants. Kelly, welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Kelly, Blue Park Restaurants, can you just give us a little background about, before we dive into sort of your journey, but Blue Park Restaurants, based in New York City, you have two restaurants, one in Midtown and one in where? The lower part of Manhattan?
In lower Manhattan.
Okay.
Yep.
And they are top fast casual. That sounds healthy, but sounds like good for me and easy for those of us who want to eat well, but don't necessarily want to put it all together for ourselves. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, I say our concepts in the city are called Blue Park Kitchen, and it's food. I say that you could cook at home if you had more time and a little bit more experience, but it's all very approachable: roasted salmon, grilled chicken, fresh vegetables, grains, and sauces, everything we make in-house. So it's a spin on comfort food.
Okay. Well, with that as our background, I want to dive into, tell us what Kelly Fitzpatrick was like when she was growing up and was in school. I mean, is this the classic story where you were in the kitchen making meals with family or for family, or you were the one that was cooking in college? Like, where did this affiliation for serving good food to people come from?
No, I wish I could say I had a more romantic story about how I got into food. But I worked in restaurants more in front of house as a server through high school and loved it. I worked at a couple country clubs where I grew up in New Jersey, and always loved the service business. And when I found out I could go to college and study hospitality, I was thrilled because I wasn't particularly drawn to any high school classes like history or English. So I applied to Cornell, to the hospitality school, and was there for 4 years, loved it. I ended up concentrating in real estate finance, which at the time, and still is, what a lot of people do there. So I actually did hotel consulting out on Long Island for a few years. Thought I was going to get more into the development side, but quickly realized I didn't want to wear a suit to work every day and sit at a desk all day. So I looked online and found a program at the CIA out in Napa, the Culinary Institute of America, for people with a bachelor's in hospitality. So it's an 8-month program instead of the normal 2 years. And I always loved food. I loved cooking. But again, I wanted a more exciting career, and I didn't know exactly what that meant, but took a chance, went out to the Culinary Institute, was there for 8 months. Thought at the time I wanted to do food writing. So I wrote for the newspaper at CIA, applied to an internship at Food and Wine, did not get it. Worked at wineries.
Things happen for a reason.
Yeah,
things happen for a reason, right?
Yeah, it was very much unpaid. So I don't know if it would have worked out anyway. But yeah, I worked at a winery out in Napa. I worked at wineries at Cornell also. So loved the wine business, loved the food business, and knew I wanted to also own my own business one day. My dad worked growing up in the city a lot. He traveled a lot. He worked really long hours for a large company. And he always told us, figure out how to be your own boss. Whatever you do, be your own boss. And that stuck with me. And I think restaurants were something I could wrap my hands around, literally. And it was a very tangible business to own that I thought, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought it would be a good idea potentially to look into operating and owning my own restaurants. So I connected a classmate of mine from Cornell who had started the Melt Shop in Manhattan. It was a grilled cheese chain. And at the time, he had 2 locations, one in Chelsea, one in Midtown. And he was looking for managers and people to help grow his concept. And so I joined with him after culinary school as assistant manager at the location at Rockefeller Center, and grew to general manager, regional manager. And then we opened up, I think it was 5 or so melt shops along the East Coast together. So it was a great experience working with him and for him. learning how to open up restaurants, how to manage teams, and really hone my leadership skills.
I love that because, as you said, it doesn't sound romantic, but it sounds like it was really thoughtful, even though some of the turns might not have been the ones you originally anticipated. And was there, Kelly, and I ask as somebody who does this also, like, was there the practical of like, oh, if I'm going over here and getting into the real estate part, there's a chance of making more money versus the people telling you there's no money in restaurants or you're crazy or the risk is. Was that going on in your mind when you were also making some of these decisions before it sounds to your heart? Or listen to what makes you really, really happy? Or was it also just, I want to try a lot of stuff and see what sticks?
Yeah, it was a combination of things. I think when it comes to the restaurant industry, I knew I didn't want to be an executive chef for the rest of my life. I knew I didn't want to work every Friday, Saturday nights. I eventually wanted to have a family and have some sort of work-life balance. So that was the first thing. I didn't want to go the traditional full-service restaurant route. I also knew in the fast casual space, I could combine my love of food and restaurants with multi-unit development. And scale concept. So I learned that through Melt Shop. Melt Shop was actually owned by a group called Orify Brands that owns Feel Good Chicken, Little Beat, a bunch of New York City concepts. And so I saw working with them how to scale concepts and actually make money and create a business out of individual stores.
I love that. So you got the experience with it. And so what was the magic moment? I don't know if there's a moment, but what was the tipping point or what was the point of like, okay, I've done this enough now. I'm ready to go out on my own. Was there a specific moment or was it building up? Did you start doing your own research as a side hustle? What did that look like to go from one to the other?
Yeah, at the time, Melt Shop was doing really well. They were expanding. They were also looking into franchising internationally. And so I found myself reviewing and creating franchise documents and getting more on the administrative side of franchising, which wasn't something I was super passionate about. So I felt like my time there may have been just coming to an end or transitioning in a way that I wasn't really expecting. And I also felt like I was getting married soon at the time, and I knew I was going to settle down and eventually have a family. And I realized it was either not a now or never situation because you could always do it, but the timing in my life was such that I didn't have any kids and I had enough experience where I thought I could pull it off. And it just felt like the right time to make a move and go off and do my own thing. So I went to the Barnes and Noble down the street from where I lived in Brooklyn and got a book on how to write a business plan and just followed it chapter by chapter and wrote out a business plan for Blue Park Kitchen based on what this book said to do.
Wow. And did you get any like support in terms of business advice or grants? Or out here in Connecticut, we have the Women Business Owners Development Council. Like, did you get any other support or you were just, I could do this. I got the experience. I know what a business plan looks like. I'm just going to do it and go out and get investors. Like, what was the next step?
Yeah. So I had made a lot of contacts through Melt Shop and Orify Brands in the city in the fast casual space. So I had a ton of mentors who were very willing to help me and share information and really guide me along the way. I also connected with the Downtown Alliance in Lower Manhattan when I found my location on Pine Street. So they helped with some business grants and opportunities and economic development initiatives that for sure helped us get set up in the area in the financial district.
Yeah. I can't imagine the layers is the best word I can think of opening a business, much less a restaurant in New York City. And so it was a no-brainer for you that it was going to be New York City because you knew it, because your heart was there. You saw a gap in the market. I'm also curious, like you didn't start small, you started in the city, right? Like, So why was New York your sort of go-to starting point?
Well, at the time, it was the only thing I knew. So that was my whole world.
Right.
It was also where my team was. I had assembled a great team of people who I still work with, managers and someone who's my now director of operations. And they all lived in Manhattan also. And no one has cars. So if you live in Manhattan, you're working in Manhattan for the most part, unless you first commute out. But yeah, it's what I knew. It's where my people were. I understood the behaviors of customers. I understood when they ate, how much they would spend, and the patterns of behavior there. So it just, it made sense. It seems crazy now, still looking back on it.
You're not exactly. Yeah. If only I'd known. Now, for a time perspective, I want to point out this was pre-COVID, right? You were not launching in the pandemic, but at what point does pandemic and opening a second restaurant happen in your world? Are those simultaneous or is one before the other and you have to go forward. How did that impact your business, which, I just sort of feel like is kind of that tipping point for everybody in terms of like, that was before COVID and this was after COVID.
I know, BCAC. Yeah, COVID was obviously devastating to us. We opened in the financial district in October of 2018. Yeah, so we had just over a year and a few months when COVID happened under our belt. And it felt like we were just getting traction, like just gaining some speed. And luckily, both of my locations in the city are in large skyscrapers. So our landlords were both very cooperative because they were, I think, more focused on leasing the office and apartments above us rather than losing us as tenants.
You were not their main concern.
Yeah. I think they were more concerned with having vacant storefronts than giving us some months of free rent. So, and up until then, we had been good tenants. Our restaurants are clean. People like going. It's aesthetically pleasing. I think they just were very glad to work with us. So I was very fortunate in that way. But the location in Midtown came up during COVID because the restaurant concept that was there quickly closed.
They weren't ready
the
for
dates
takeout.
were, like March 16th. Yeah. They're based out of Chicago, and I just don't think they were interested in weathering the storm. So they shut the door one day and just never came back. So when I toured the space a year later, chicken was still in the walk-in. Food was still in the store. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. There were quite a few locations that I toured during COVID where, I remember a Starbucks that it was like apocalyptic. Luckily, a lot of these places were boarded up, so people couldn't see inside. But the team just locked the door one day, thought they were coming back the next day and didn't. And then years go by and COVID is still around.
Oh my God. I feel like there's an untold story there. Or like,
yeah. Yeah, there was
things people don't need to see when they now come into your restaurant. Like, you should have seen it 5 years ago.
I know.
So you were sort of like, we're going to get through this. Let's seize the opportunity. Midtown is a place for you to be in terms of the traffic and wanting to expand.
Yeah. And we got a great deal on rent because it was a really tough time. But yeah, we were right outside Grand Central. So I knew if any place was going to come back, it was there.
Right.
So yeah, the idea was to always throw Blue Park Kitchen into several locations in Manhattan. And this, because it was a former restaurant, the infrastructure was also there. So between the build out cost reduction and the rent structure, it made sense.
You weren't taking as big of a leap or as big of a risk it could have been.
Right.
So it sounds like you were able to weather COVID just by the nature of the business you had already, right? You were focused on people taking your food out, and that wasn't a surprise. So you didn't have to suddenly pivot and start thinking about how to sell margaritas with your tacos, so to speak.
Yeah, we definitely did some change up to our menu. Got a PPP loan. There are definitely some things that helped us get through. We wouldn't have otherwise been able to. But yeah, it's funny. I feel like I sometimes blacked out COVID. It's hard to think. No, it's funny to think back on it because I feel like I've just let it go from my memory. But again, we have a great team of people who really also kept us afloat.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that they stayed and persevered in the city. So I don't want to fast forward, but we can skip COVID. No, moving through COVID, it looks like you're going to survive. You've gotten married. We're talking now because you're sitting in your office in HAYVN in Greenwich. When or how did this vision for you to either expand, move out? You're not leaving New York, but what was the catalyst for you to say, I need to try something else, or it's time for a change? Was that personal? Was it professional? Was it all of the above?
Yeah, it was a mix of things. Blue Park Kitchen does well in Manhattan. We have a great following, a lot of loyal customers, and a team that is great and executes well every day. The challenge with Manhattan now is there's so much private equity and the fast casual space and lunch space in particular that it's hard for us to compete with the Cavas and the Sweet Greens and Chipotle and all these places that spend so many dollars on marketing and technology and apps. And they do things that I don't even understand or even know that they do to get and retain customers, that it just becomes very hard for us to compete with that. So I decided to pause in our expansion in Manhattan. Also, real estate got very expensive very quickly coming out of COVID. Decided to pivot. I have 2 kids and we live in Stanford. I wanted to figure out how to work closer to home and build a restaurant business with the people that I've already employed because they deserve opportunities and they want opportunities. And I knew we could build something. And I was watching I think it was the Stanley Cup 2 or 3 years ago. And the Rangers were playing in the playoffs. And there was the Jersey Mike's logo on the ice floating around. You know, the cameras can superimpose logos on the ice. And I'm watching this New York team and the Jersey Mike's logo. And I'm thinking, Jersey Mike, obviously I know Jersey Mike's, but doesn't feel like there's that many around where we live in the suburbs. And so I Google Map Jersey Mike's and come to find out I think at the time there was one Jersey Mike's in all of Westchester County, which was in Hartsdale. And so I emailed from my couch, franchising at jerseymikes.com. Yes. As I'm watching hockey, franchising at jerseymikes.com. And I write a little blurb about myself, my background in hospitality, my restaurants. I'd love to talk to someone about franchising in Westchester County, New York. Because I knew there were some in Connecticut, but not in Westchester. And the next day, their franchising sales contact emails me. And it starts a conversation that went on for at least 10 months about me, the team, the brand. I had to meet with them. We had to talk about the market, obviously show my financial standing, put together a business plan, and eventually was granted some territory in Westchester County and the Bronx. So it's sort of a spur of the moment note I sent out. And now it's turned into a franchising deal with Jersey Mike's.
That's amazing. And you obviously knew what it was like to be on the other side of the franchising table, right? From your prior experience. So it was less intimidating to be on the other side, in terms of knowing what they wanted and what they were going to ask for and understanding both sides of that table. How is being part of a franchising operation versus running your own show? Are there peaks and valleys? Do you like that there's pressure on somebody else?
Yes.
Do you feel like you've also, though, been hemmed in and what you can do? I feel like we could talk for another 20 minutes about franchising.
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting model, right?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, to be honest, I was very glad to be told what to do from a brand who knows what to do.
Right.
I try that we're the, I don't know the number exactly, but say the 3,500th location that they have. So I know that what they're saying is based on data and based on reality and facts as far as what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
So
Not guessing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I knew they had a great following. They had a very strong company culture, which still impresses me. And I knew that it was a brand that I wanted to be a part of from a culture perspective and how they treat their franchisees and their people. And at the time, it was privately owned by the Cancro family. They've since sold to Blackstone. But yeah, it's actually been a great experience so far. There's certain things that I wish we had control over, but at the end of the day,
right,
I trust them, and
the benefits outweigh those concerns. Well, Kelly, I'm in awe. You're all saying all of this so casually, like, yeah, I just opened a restaurant in New York and another restaurant in New York and whatever. So I just want to say, like, you're doing it with this kind of grace and nonchalance that I think most of us would be terrified to even contemplate. My other takeaway here was I never expected the word private equity to be part of this conversation, but you're really bringing it home that this is no longer about mom and pop struggling to just sell their favorite recipes. It's truly a business that is being infiltrated by how do we maximize efficiencies and make more money out of this. So there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Connecticut and welcome to the HAYVN offices. And will we be seeing restaurants under your sort of founding and management in the Connecticut area at some point soon?
Yeah. So the plan is to open Magnolia Bakery actually by the end of this year in Greenwich. So yeah, I signed on with Magnolia last year and I own the franchise rights to develop Fairfield County. So I have a deal for 4 Magnolia bakeries in Fairfield County. The first, depending on the timing, I'm not sure which will open first, but will be Greenwich or Darien. And then from there, we'll choose 2 other locations to open.
Wow. How do you know what shirt you're wearing or t-shirt or hat you're wearing when you wake up in the morning? Like, is it the Magnolia
Bakery?
Bakery?
Hat issue is actually a very literal problem that I have in my car. I have 3 different hats. Yeah. The culture is the same. The brands are different. The food is different, but the people are the same. They have the same work ethic, the same good heart. They're all kind people. They're all good people. So it's really not that difficult to move around as long as we keep the culture consistent and the people the same.
I love that. I love that. But
Yeah.
externally, you wouldn't necessarily put Jersey Mike's with Magnolia Bakery if you were a consumer. Is that a fair statement?
You mean, what do you mean from a...
Well, I mean, in terms of like being a, maybe let's say brother, sister operations. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. To be honest with you, they're both clean, friendly, happy places to be. Obviously different food, different culinary experiences, but I think the vibe and the energy when you walk into both is actually pretty similar.
well, watch this space for the growing empire of Kelly Fitzpatrick. Kelly, thank you for your time. If people are curious to know more about your franchising experience, your business experience, they just want to learn about what you're doing and what you're growing, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, they can email me at kelly@blueparkrestaurants.com. And yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's has any questions looking to get into the space or wants to learn how to bake. We're also looking for people. We're also hiring constantly. So if you like subs or cupcakes, let me know.
This is a very good information. And if you're in the Greenwich office of HAYVN, swing by and walk by
Yeah,
and
of
wave and
course.
say hello.
Yeah, I'd love to meet anyone who comes by.
Thank you so much for your time. I feel like we might have to come back and do a whole franchising, conversation later. But again, thank you for sharing your experience and your wisdom and your journey. And we're excited that you're part of the HAYVN community.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And that's another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. If you like what you hear, please give us a like, a share, a review is appreciated, and make sure you're a subscriber on your favorite platform.
Thanks for listening to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. HAYVN is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. HAYVN is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the HAYVN community online at hayvn.com. That's HAYVN.com. HAYVN Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.